But if you break down the pose and look at its individual components, you'll see elements of familiar poses. So instead of letting the big picture of Visvamitrasana overwhelm you, break the pose down into its component poses and work toward a mastery of each. You'll begin with a variation of Viparita Karani, legs up the wall pose. You'll need a bolster or 2 blankets and some clear wall space for this pose. To begin, place a bolster or 2 folded blankets 6 to 8 inches away from a wall. Sit on the prop and place your right hip against the wall. Place your hands on the floor behind you. Slowly swing your legs up the wall as you lower your elbows to the floor. Lie all the way back, then scoot your seat as close to the wall as you can without creating discomfort in your legs. The bolster should be underneath the back of your pelvis and lower back, creating a mild back bend. Finish the pose by dropping your legs away from one another until you feel a mild to medium sensation in your inner thighs and groins. Now that you're set up, let gravity do the work of stretching your legs. Settle, soften, and breathe. Direct your breath to your lower abdomen and inner legs, and place your hands on your hip points. Imagine that your thigh bones are releasing toward your outer legs, your hip points are broadening, and your inner thighs are becoming soft and pliable. As your inner thighs deepen their stretch, shift your attention to your sensory organs, particularly your eyes, ears, and tongue. In Visvamitrasana, these areas will tend to harden and bulge. So take a moment to soften these areas and allow them to release inward as if they gently deflate. Allow this pattern of relaxation to imprint itself in your memory because you'll need it as the challenging postures start to flow. To come out, place your hands behind your inner knees and use them to draw your knees in toward your chest. Roll to your right side. Bring your hands to the floor and press up into a seated position. Move your blankets aside. The next pose, Parivrtta Janushirshasana, revolved head of the knee pose, will stretch your side body, hamstrings, and inner thighs in preparation for Visvamitrasana. To begin, sit in Baddha Konasana. Place your fingertips on the floor behind you as you lengthen the sides of your torso. Pause for a moment, retaining the receptive calm of Viparita Karani, and breathe into your lower abdomen. Straighten your right leg to the side about 60 degrees from your pelvis. Press your left heel deep into your left groin. If this creates discomfort in your knee, you can place your left foot against your right thigh instead. Now slide your right hand down your leg to your right ankle. Pull the skin of your ankle toward you as you lengthen the right side of your ribs toward your right thigh. From there, drop your right forearm to the floor, just inside the shin, and hook your index and middle finger under your Achilles tendon. Reach your left arm overhead and, if possible, catch the outer edge of your right foot. Before deepening specific actions within the pose, simply scan your awareness through your entire body to become oriented. Although the sensations in your extended leg and top ribs will tend to dominate your attention, cut through these layers and notice your jaw, your back thigh, your bottom ribs, and the contact of your top hand and right foot. Now shift your attention toward refining the pose. In Visvamitrasana, the torso tends to de-rotate so that the chest faces the floor. To counteract this tendency, root down through your right thigh bone and push your right inner heel farther away from your body. Create a slight pulling action with your right index and middle fingers against your Achilles tendon, and elongate your torso until you are at your maximum stretch without strain. Lean back slightly and roll your abdomen, ribs, and chest open. Breathe slowly and deeply into any resistance that presents itself. Try to relax any impulse you may have to push your body beyond a comfortable edge. To complete the pose, bend your top elbow toward the ceiling as if you were going to pick your right foot off the floor. If you're already at your maximum stretch, the elbow won't actually move, and that's okay. Gravity will be pressing you down in Visvamitrasana, so it's important to use the top arm to help lift yourself up. Take another breath or two, then release your top arm and gently come up out of the pose. Come back to Baddha Konasana and take a deep breath before doing the other side. When you feel ready, straighten your left leg out to the side and press your right heel deep into your right groin. If you need to modify, you can place your right foot against your left thigh instead. As you exhale, slide your left hand down your leg to your left ankle. Pull the skin of your ankle toward you as you lengthen the left side of your ribs toward your left thigh. From there, drop your left forearm to the floor, just inside the shin, and hook your index and middle finger under your Achilles tendon. Reach your right arm overhead and catch the outer edge of your left foot. Take a moment to scan your entire body to become oriented. Try to experience your whole body in the pose, aware of all the subtle layers of sensation as you take a slow, calming breath. Next, refine the pose by rooting down through your left thigh bone and pushing your left inner heel farther away from your body. Create a slight pulling action with your left index and middle fingers against your Achilles tendon and elongate your torso until you're at your maximum. If you are particularly open, your side body will drape over your leg. Lean back slightly as if you're going to fall behind your straight leg. Practice turning your whole body from the inside out, encouraging your abdominal organs, kidneys, heart, and lungs to spiral toward the ceiling. Complete the pose by bending your top elbow toward the ceiling as if you were going to pick your left foot off the floor. Stay for one more deep breath, then release your foot and come back to Baddha Konasana. For the next pose, Baddha Parshva Konasana, or bound side angle pose, you'll learn to bring your attention into your back leg, plant your foot, and distribute the weight of your body in a way that's similar to what you do in Visvamitrasana. In addition, Baddha Parshva Konasana will help prepare your shoulders and outer hips for the demands of the final pose. You may need a strap to bind this pose, so have one nearby. Come up to standing by bringing your knees together, placing your feet flat on the floor, and taking one deep breath in a forward bend. Then place your hands on your hips and keeping your back flat, come all the way up. Stand sideways on your sticky mat with your feet wide apart. Turn your right foot out, turn your back foot slightly in, and align your front heel with your back arch. Bend your front knee until your shin is vertical and step your back foot far out enough away so that you feel a moderate opening in your inner legs. Place your right fingertips on the floor to the inner edge of your right foot, nestle your right shoulder against your right knee, and place your top hand on your top hip. Take a moment to breathe deeply and become oriented. From there, you are going to gently exaggerate the collapse and distortion that typically occur in this pose. Developing familiarity with common mishaps and practicing the necessary corrections will help you as the poses become more challenging. So swing your hips to the right, turn your chest and top shoulder toward the ground, and disengage the muscles of your back thigh. Now that you feel what you don't want your body to do, cultivate the opposite, optimal pattern. Draw your right sitting bone forward, bring your pelvis into the same plane as your feet, and spiral your chest toward the ceiling. Lastly, lengthen your back leg and plant the four corners of your back foot. To bind the pose, lower your right shoulder underneath your right knee. Internally rotate your right arm and slide your fingertips under your right thigh toward the outside of your right hip. Rotate your torso toward the ceiling and wrap your left arm around your back. Clasp your left hand or wrist with your right hand. Use a strap if you're not able to complete the bind. There's a tendency to collapse in the upper body. Cultivate buoyancy by charging your back leg and root your back foot into the sticky mat. Firm the inner border of your back thigh and lift your hips slightly. Engage your lower abdominals and pelvic floor. Feel how these actions take the bulk of your weight off your front leg and distribute the effort of your body more evenly. Breathe slowly and deeply. Then release the bind and come up to standing with both hands on your hips. Turn your left foot out, turn your right foot slightly in, and align your front heel with your back arch. Bend your front knee 90 degrees or until you feel a light stretch in your inner thighs. Exhale as you place your left fingertips on the floor to the inner edge of your left foot. Nestle your left shoulder against your left knee and place your top hand on your top hip. Stay here and breathe deeply for a moment. Now check in with your alignment. Are your shoulders or chest sinking toward the floor? Have your hips gone off track? Do what you can to keep your pelvis underneath you as you roll your right shoulder back and your chest toward the ceiling. Use the strength of your foundation, the inner legs hugging in, the feet pressing evenly into the ground, to keep you feeling strong and buoyant. Now move into the bind. If you need a strap, grab it now. Then lower your left shoulder underneath your left knee. Internally rotate your left arm and slide your fingertips under your left thigh toward the outside of your left hip. Rotate your torso toward the ceiling and wrap your right arm around your back. Clasp your right hand or wrist with your left hand. Stay for 3 more breaths, feeling your whole body working as one unit. Then release the bind and come back up to standing with your hands on your hips. From there, turn to your right and take Adho Mukha Svanasana, or downward facing dog. The next pose, Vashisthasana, side plank pose, will teach you the arm and shoulder actions that are essential for the final pose of this sequence. In Visvamitrasana, the front leg tends to press against the bottom shoulder and arm, forcing the shoulder out of optimal alignment. Practicing Vashisthasana with a focus on arm bone placement will not only teach you the desired pattern for the final pose, but will also help strengthen and integrate your entire upper body. Come into plank pose with your shoulders stacked directly over your wrists. Root down through the bases of your fingers and rotate your elbow creases and biceps forward. This should externally rotate your arm bones. Rather than collapse your chest toward the floor, gently lift the back of your heart and lungs. Notice how this lifting action broadens your shoulder blades and activates your arms more thoroughly. From there, come to the outer edge of your right foot, stacking your left leg on top of your right leg and placing your left hand on your left hip. Look down at your bottom arm and reinforce its external rotation by turning your elbow crease toward your thumb. To finish the pose, inhale, reach your top arm up and lift your hips strongly toward the ceiling. In fact, lift your outer legs, hips, and ribs so completely that your whole body begins to arc into a side bend. Deepen this arc by extending your top arm over your ear toward the front edge of your sticky mat, palm facing down. Allow your top ribs to round toward the ceiling, fanning into a side bend as you lift. Then lower your top hand to the floor and return to downward facing dog. Come into plank pose with your shoulders stacked directly over your wrists. Breathing deeply, come to the outer edge of your left foot, stacking your right leg on top of your left leg and placing your right hand on your right hip. You've got the basic shape. Now it's time to go into detail with your shoulders. First, look down at your left hand and press the base of your index finger into the floor. Rotate your elbow crease toward your thumb. Notice how this external rotation draws the head of your upper arm bone into the joint and broadens the bottom collarbone. Now support this alignment by drawing your left shoulder blade down your back. As this shoulder blade draws into place, firm it against the back of your ribs. This work of supporting your weight with your bottom arm may be challenging, but your arm and shoulder should feel stable. To finish the pose, inhale, reach your top arm up, lift your hips toward the ceiling and come into a side bend. Reach your right arm over your ear, palm facing the floor, and feel a nice deep stretch between each rib. Take 3 to 5 more breaths. Then place your right hand down and come into downward dog. Now that you're prepared, you'll take Visvamitrasana, the pose dedicated to the sage Visvamitra. From downward dog, step your feet to your hands and come up to standing. Now stand sideways on your mat with your feet wide apart. Turn your right foot out and turn your back foot slightly in. Bend your front knee and press your right shoulder against your inner right knee. Take a few breaths, slowly rocking your pelvis forward and backward to soften the muscular resistance in your hips. Drop your right shoulder underneath your front knee, sneak your right arm behind your shin, and place your right hand outside your foot. Pause for a moment and feel your 3 points of contact with the floor, your right hand, front foot, and back foot. In a moment, you're going to pick up your front foot, so you'll need to charge your back leg and shift your weight slightly to the right and into your right arm. Take a slow, steady breath and remember the calm of your first pose, Viparita Karani. You're about to take flight. To lift off, hold the outer edge of your right foot or your right big toe with your left hand. Lean onto your right hand until your front foot lifts off the ground. Extend your right leg until it is straight, squeezing your inner thigh against your arm in order to keep it from slipping toward the ground. To finish the pose, shift your focus to the side bend. Bend your top elbow toward the ceiling and roll your chest open. Breathe into the spacious opening of your top ribs. After several breaths in the pose, bend your front knee and lower your foot back to the floor. Come back up to your wide stride. Pause for a moment to savor your experience. Then turn your left foot out and your right foot slightly in. Maintaining your smooth, even breath, bend your left knee and press your left shoulder against your inner left knee. Take a few breaths here, rocking your pelvis forward and back slightly to warm up the outer hip. Then lower your left shoulder under your left leg and place your left hand to the outside of your left foot. When you feel ready for liftoff, take hold of your left foot with your right hand, lean onto your left hand and extend your top leg. Spiral your chest and ribs toward the ceiling and feel the sensation of soaring in the pose. Slowly and smoothly return your left foot to the ground and exhale as you step back into downward facing dog. To finish your practice, do a few quieting forward bends like Upavishta Konasana, wide angle seated forward bend. It is inevitable and arguably desirable to experience a wide array of sensations when practicing poses like Visvamitrasana, from the excitement of skillful execution and expansion to the frustration of failing to take off, to the embarrassment of falling. Give yourself permission to feel your experience honestly and learn about your body and mind in the process. Savor the effects of this practice and transition into Shavasana, corpse pose.